Thanks for tuning in to this broadcast of the Resilient Advisor Podcast. My name is Jay Coulter, and joining me for this episode is my friend and industry consultant, Kristin Andree of the Andree Consulting Group. Kristin, thanks for coming on the podcast again.
Thanks for having me, Jay. It's always fun.
All right, so I've had this project for the last 6 months of trying to come up with some type of white paper deliverable to help advisors come up with a simple approach to developing a niche market. I got to be honest with you, I have struggled with this for so long. As you and I spoke, you had some great advice. You got to start with the target market and then narrow down. You have a whole process and program for it. So I appreciate you coming on to share how you walk advisors down this path. So let's start at the beginning. What's the first step?
I think the first step is so many advisors and insurance professionals, anybody in our industry, they're really trying to be an expert for everybody out there. So the first step is really figuring out that you're not for everyone. We need to really hone in on a couple things. One, the people it is that you have an expertise working with. So you know their industry, you know their market, whether it's a specific industry, a specific demographic, but you really understand them and what it is they need and how as an advisor you can help them. I think that's the first part. But the second piece is also, it's got to be somebody you enjoy working with, because we all spend so much time in our businesses that if we're not working with somebody we like and have fun with, it just be monotonous. So I think to be able to combine who you're really good at and really get and who you enjoy being around is the first step.
I recently ran across an advisor that was exploring working with folks that were going through a divorce. And they thought they had some experience doing it. They thought that was a path that made sense for them. And after about 3 months, they said, Jay, I don't like working with people that are struggling. Like, that's not in my core skill set. Yet there are people where that is the perfect match for them.
Absolutely.
Any guidance on some best practices or maybe bad examples like that where advisors have gone down a path and it didn't work, or one where they have and they just found professional happiness?
The divorce one is a big path. I hear that a lot with advisors. It's interesting. I had a coaching client of mine one time, a male advisor, and he'd said, I really want to work with divorced women. And I was like, well, tell me what you know about divorced women. Well, the part he was missing was a lot of divorced women, a new guy, a man, is the last thing they're going to want to see. So with him, he was divorced himself. He had an interest in the market, but it was a matter of figuring out how he could approach that market and get in front of them in an authentic way that didn't seem like he was, you hate to say this, preying on the divorced women. So we were able to partner him with another advisor who was a female, and they made a really, really good team with it. So I do see people jumping into the market the wrong reason. A lot of times it's because they think it's just a wealthy market. They're thinking, surgeons are a great market, or business owners are a great market. So they dive right into that market without really taking time to see if they're going to like the people.
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast this past weekend outside of our industry, and this was someone who actually works with business coaches, and he was telling the story about how he had a client that worked with folks that were in multi-level marketing. And at first, your thoughts are probably just like mine were, why would you work with that particular niche? But there was a caveat to it. It was the top 1% of earners in the multi-level marketing space. And so that he could then take that brand nationwide just to the highest achievers in there. So I think whatever you're passionate about, you can go and just find the top echelon of those folks. Kristin, in all your years of experience working with advisors, what are some of the best target markets you've found?
Like I said, the best one is the one you enjoy working with. Like me, I work with it. I have 2 markets that I work in from a coaching perspective. I work with insurance and financial advisors, male or female, but they tend to be the top people from a private coaching standpoint. They're the top. They are at the top of their game. They work really hard. They have fun. They're authentic. But I also work with female executives and business owners, and same thing, top of their game, authentic, and want to grow. So for me, that's what I see consistently across the board. And for advisors, you've got to find that niche that really excites you. I tell my coaching class all the time, if you're looking at your calendar and there's somebody on there that you're like, oh, I can't believe I have to see this person this week, that's not your demographic. Those aren't the people you need to be in front of. I want you to look at your calendar. That's often a first good exercise as to where your market could be. Look at your calendar and figure out who excites you. and look at your list of your top 20, 50 clients, however many you have, and figure out who do I really get jazzed up when I'm in front of. That usually gives you a pretty good indicator if you can look at the commonalities as to where you want to build your market.
Okay. Well, let's go through a thought exercise. Let's pretend I'm an advisor, you're coaching me, and I'm going to use dentists because you shouldn't use dentists. There are too many people that target them. But I've decided that I want to target dentists. What do I do next?
The first thing I'd have you look at is your existing client base, because I'm really big. I'm not a cold call person. I never have been. When I was practicing as an advisor, I didn't call. So I'm very much on meeting people genuinely through your own networks, whether that be networking or personal introductions or anything like that. So the first thing I would have you do is take a list take a look at your client base, especially your top clients, and figure out which dentists are in there. If you don't have any dentist at all, I'm going to challenge you a little bit on why you want to be in that market. And so I've had this happen with a lot of advisors. They're like, well, dentists make a lot of money. That's not a good enough reason to get in the market. It's really got to be, there's got to be something deeper than you think you're going to make money off of them. Because if you go into target market thinking I'm going to make some money, you're going to fail. It's going to be seen. The clients and prospects are going to know that that's why you're doing it. So if you don't have any dentists, then I'm going to go a little bit deeper and ask you what your personal story is, why that market's important to you. Because I need you to be able to connect with them on a personal and professional level before we can get to the financial piece that you'll be working on with them. So we'll look at client base, we'll look at your own center and circle of influence to see which dentists are in there, and we start there.
Okay. And then what's the next step in the process after you've gone through that exercise?
So there's two prongs really. The first one is the education piece, where as an advisor, you've got to make sure you know everything you can know about their market. You know, I kind of joke with a couple of my advisors, a lot of the major firms out there have marketing materials around the what keeps you up at night. So I kind of joke with them, like, quit using that phrase, but that's really what you want to find out is in this market, what's keeping them up? What is making it harder for them to run their business or balance business and life or anything like that? So I wanted to dive into what's going on with my market. So that's the first piece, is educating yourself as to how you can best help them. The products, the services, the portfolios you build, that's secondary. I want to know kind of where their true pain points are and what makes them tick. So that's the first piece. And the second prong would be, once you've identified who in your market is already there, start talking to them and say, I'm looking to meet more people just like you. Like, I love working with dentists. I really want to grow this piece of my business. What do I need to be doing? Who do I need to be talking to? Where do I need to show up? So whether it's personal introductions or different groups or organizations you need to get entrenched in, that's usually the first place to start.
Okay. So after you have shaken the trees in your network, shaking the trees with your clients, there needs to be some type of proactive outreach to people that you don't know and people you know don't know. What are your thoughts? What are your recommendations?
I've seen a ton of things work and I've seen a ton of things not work. And what's interesting is what works for one of my clients may not necessarily work for another one. So I typically tell people we're going to try a few things. Some are going to work, some aren't. That's the thing with marketing. Everything works. We just don't know which one of them is going to work for us. So I tend to tell people do what fits better with their style. I've got some of my advisor clients who are phenomenal in front of a crowd. They are great speakers. So if I can get them in front of their target market from an industry perspective or a standpoint speaking, they're phenomenal. I have other advisors are great one-on-one, but if I put them in front of a crowd, they're going to panic. So I've really got to dig into the advisor and figure out what's going to work for you specifically. But I've seen anything from speaking engagements, guest on podcasts within that particular market, writing white papers. I have one client that works a lot in the physician space, and he puts out some phenomenal white papers. He has an app. He posts them on his app too, and he always is emailing them to people. That's been a good market too. And then I've got some people that just are good connectors, where their market generally wants to help them, so they make personal introductions. All of it works. You just got to see what works for you.
So I'd love to learn a little more about the app. So how does your client leverage? Did he have an app created and he puts content on there?
Yeah, this client had an app created. He has a PR firm and marketing firm that he does some work with that I know as well, and they're phenomenal. He's in the RIA space, so he's not with a larger broker dealer. So from a compliance standpoint, it was a little bit easier for him. But his app really just contains a lot of his obviously his contact information. Any white papers he's put out are on there. Any speaking he's going to be doing, he speaks a lot at different conferences, that's listed on there as well. Copies of his prior newsletters, those are all on there. So it's really a marketing tool, but there is a section where his clients can log in kind of like they would on a website and access their accounts as well.
Interesting. As you well know, with your podcast, No Limits, it's a lot of work to create a podcast. It's a lot of work to create a newsletter, white papers. It seems to me like an app would just take that to the next level, because you'd have to get people to sign up. They'd have to remember their login, which would be a challenge. But I'm guessing that once they're in there, you really have a pretty tight community. Is that fair?
You do, yeah. And a lot of his app you're not logging into. You can access his white papers and everything like that on the app itself. So his app developer, the firm that he works with, they designed it to fit him. So it's not a pre-made one. It's truly what's custom made for him. And a lot of the marketing firms will do that. They'll design something that's exactly what you want. So whatever pieces you want, whether you want to just have publications or white papers on there, that's a good thing too. His is really used mostly for marketing. And it's newer. He's had it, less than a year, but it's been fun watching it. And as silly as it sounds, it's street cred. The doctors, he's looking at the docs he works with. And he's like, well, be sure and download my app. And they're like, oh, you have an app? And I mean, it sounds silly, but they're really impressed by it. It elevates his firm.
Yeah, I can completely see. I just haven't heard that before. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I had looked at an app for the Resilient Advisor, and what I had determined, since I give everything away from a content perspective, it was just going to be easier if I have it, on iTunes and YouTube and Google Play, etc. But I could see where an app would be really, really impactful if you're really, really niched down as an advisor.
Yeah, especially advisor like with you and I. So we give away a lot of content. My podcast is on the same platforms too. They can access it free. So it wasn't necessarily a need for, my practice or probably yours. But for a lot of advisors, especially if you can roll in clients being able to log in, that's a good thing. Very good thing.
Well, I want to wrap up talking about how advisors could leverage LinkedIn in this space. For those listening that do not know Kristin, she's an absolute expert as it relates to LinkedIn, and she has recently added a new program to her coaching business. Tell us a little bit about the program at a high level, and for broadcast viewers, I have it up on the screen right now.
Yeah, we launched Top Tier Advisor. I've been in the industry 20 years and I've been coaching privately for about 10. And I had so many people coming to me for resources. And these were great advisors, but maybe a little bit newer in the career, or either extremely seasoned and successful advisors who needed resources for their team or their staff or their junior advisors. So we put together a Top Tier Advisor. And what it is it's a practice management related site. We offer, any topic around practice management, marketing, social media, how to hire a staff member, how to run a client event, everything is in there. And then each month we add a new masterclass. So you'll see there, January's masterclass was on leveraging LinkedIn. So each month, I know how advisors are. When I was still practicing, it was hard to keep my attention. These are 20, 25-minute masterclasses. So they are quick and strategy filled. So I joke with people, I'm a strategy and accountability girl. So it's 20, 25 minutes of content where we are there is nothing but straight strategy. So we used January to talk about LinkedIn and how to leverage it as an advisor. This site is built specifically for insurance and financial advisors.
Yeah, 20-minute blocks are perfect for any busy professional. You have a high impact learning time window, and then you can execute on the strategies. Kristin, this service that you're offering, Top Tier Advisor, is incredibly priced at, I believe it's $99 a month. Is that correct?
$95 a month, or you can get the whole year for $950, but $95 a month. I tried to price it where any advisor out there, it was a no-brainer. Just to be able to invest in it and have the resources at their fingertips.
Yeah. And I can tell you from the LinkedIn content that's on here, that's worth the full year in itself. If you hired somebody to help you with LinkedIn that is competent, professional, and can get results, they're going to charge you thousands of dollars. And here you get the platform for a whole year. I went through the LinkedIn platform here. I highly recommend it. Let's pivot back to our example of the dentist and leveraging some of the tools that you have here in this LinkedIn training on Top Tier Advisor. What would I do in the dentist after I've gone through all the steps you've recommended so far? And now I want to leverage LinkedIn.
Well, the dentist is definitely, or any target market. Before, there's two things. One, I call it the low hanging fruit, because LinkedIn, especially if you're leveraging Sales Navigator, I'm a huge proponent of Sales Navigator. In LinkedIn, they have a section on there that says, lets you know when somebody's changed jobs in the last 90 days. For an advisor, if you are not checking that regularly and figuring out who in your network has changed jobs, you are missing so many rollovers. I mean, I have clients of mine where they've gone through the LinkedIn course, or I've walked them through it from a private coaching perspective, where they're like, oh my God, they picked up so many rollovers the first month. They've paid for several years. It's just a piece of low-hanging fruit people are forgetting. And that's not specific to dentists or target market. That's in general. But those are things that advisors need to intentionally pay attention to. Not only to look at rollover dollars, but just to call your network and say, hey, I heard you got a promotion, change jobs, whatever, and congratulate them. But back to the dentist market, or any target market that you pick, you can search and see who's out there. Like, I kind of joke, when I started my advisory career, we didn't have social media. It was well before, it's dating myself, but it was well before social. So we just went out and met people and asked for introductions and figured out who we knew. But on LinkedIn, you could type in dentist, and you could do it within a certain geographic region, and you could figure out who they are and go after them. You can also find out who your in common person is. So if your way to find new people is by asking for introductions, you go to the common person and say, hey, I see Dr. Jones. He seems fantastic. I haven't had the opportunity to meet him. Would you make an introduction? Or you can send a white paper to all the dentists. Whichever one of those marketing strategies and prospecting strategies works for you, we can just leverage that by knowing who the people are. It's just a great way to find your market.
What are your thoughts on outsourcing LinkedIn management?
I actually it depends on the advisor, to tell you the truth. It's funny. I like outsourcing pieces of it. I never outsource. I do have people that'll do research for me, and then I have producers that handle my podcast, that type of stuff. I never outsource comments. I like to engage with my audience. So anytime there's a comment or a response, it's always me. So that personally for me is, I won't outsource that piece, but I'll certainly outsource the research portion. I have another advisor that I actually privately coached her through how to use LinkedIn. She has 2 staff members and won't outsource the research to the staff members. We tried it, but what she was finding is, when she started doing research, let's say with dentists, when she started looking to see who it was in her market, she was getting so excited about, oh gosh, we have 5 people in common. We went to the same college. So it just made her conversations with them, when she did reach out, so much more authentic, that she kept that component. And what was interesting is, for her, she worked with a lot of Wall Street guys, was her market. She didn't have to research that much, because she was so truly engaged with the authenticity of the connection, that she was literally getting meetings with the majority of people she was reaching out to.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Yeah, Kristin, the magic word there is authentic. I do all my own work on LinkedIn. You can't pay somebody else to do your push-ups, as Jim Rohn used to say, and you can't pay somebody else to build those relationships. So I have found that the most powerful connections I've made on social have been through those interactions where I've driven it and was able to add value. I love the idea of outsourcing some of the research, though, because it can be time consuming. That's a great idea.
Yeah. And and if you're a newer advisor listening and you don't really have staff or resources to be able to do it, or financially you can't, I mean, that was a big reason we launched the platform, is because a lot of advisors are newer. They can't afford to outsource things. This is a Sunday night activity. Maybe not during football season, but during the rest of the year, sit around on Sunday night and just pull up your laptop and do some research as to who's out there. And you'd be surprised how many really good prospects you can find on LinkedIn.
Excellent. Kristin, tell listeners first how they can follow you on social media, because you put great content out there, and then let them know how they can find out more about Top Tier Advisor.
So I would say on social, I'm Andree Group, Andree. So Andree Group on everything. So I am on, you name the platform I'm on it. I use Facebook a lot. I love to engage on there. I'm on LinkedIn. We've got a YouTube channel. All of my podcasts, we live stream. So they're on my Facebook page. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, but everything's under Andree Group. So that's super easy to find.
Excellent. And how can they find out about the platform, Top Tier Advisor?
So Top Tier Advisor, it's toptieradvisor.com. So you guys can go in there and just take a peek at it and take a look at what it is. And like I said, we've got everything priced. Honestly, I just want to make it available to everybody, just because I don't want there ever to be a barrier to entry to learn the strategies that you need to grow your business. So toptieradvisor.com.
Excellent. Kristin, thanks so much for coming on and sharing your thoughts on how to build a target market.
All right. Thanks, Jay.